Hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by... Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We're going to have a couple of important Kentucky political news items in our news of the week. Then we have a couple of really amazing guests queued up. We'll start with an update on the General Assembly, currently underway in Frankfort, from friend of the show, Representative Adrielle Camuel. She's got that front row seat for the legislative shenanigans, and she's going to give us an update on which bills are moving forward, what folks can do about it. And we're very excited to be joined by Louisville City Council member Shameka Parrish-Wright, who's also the executive director of Vocal Kentucky, a longtime civil rights leader in Kentucky's biggest, bluest dot. Should be a heck of a show, and we're damn glad you joined us. We know there's a lot of internet out there you could be landed on right now, but you landed on us. Thank you so much. But before we get into it, are you ready to help create a more compassionate commonwealth? It is crystal clear that we are going to need long-term power building to create better policies and political outcomes in Kentucky. We hope you'll support Progress Kentucky in our campaign to make that happen. Let us know how you want to help. We are actually right now launching 3 new committees, even as we speak. One focused on the legislature, one focused on fighting back against Trump and the billionaire backing Doge bros that are holding. We're going to push back by holding our federal representatives accountable. And then we have another effort that's focused on long-term rural engagement. So if you're in Kentucky, you're progressive, and you're fired up to help bring more progressive political progress to Kentucky, let us know, and we'll plug you into those efforts. Or you can always make a contribution right now. It's like, that sounds like too much work. I would just like to throw some money at these folks. You can do it. We've got a secure online website, Act Blue, to help turn Kentucky purple. $10, $20, $200 all adds up to real political impact. All right, so now let's go ahead and check in with our co-hosts. Let us know who you are, where you are, and what does your protest sign say today? There's so much you could protest. I'm Aaron. I'm coming to you from Lexington. My sign says tax cuts for billionaires paid for by cutting hundreds of billions from Medicaid. Not great, guys. That's me. Hey, Nema's here too. And Mrs. Jones. Hi, folks.
I'm excited to see Miss Kim here. I've not been on a show with her in a while, so I hope things are going okay for you, Miss Kim.
I miss you, Nema, more than I do Aaron. I tell you, girl, where you been? Where you been?
Well, I've been noticing we've been missing each other on the schedule, so I'm glad that things have now come full circle. Everything should be back to normal. I am Nema. I am here in the lovely Kenwood area of Fayette County. And my protest sign says it's going to be this all day, every day, probably for the next 4 years. No more kings. No more kings.
No more kings. No more kings. How about our resident queen? Kim, what are you protesting?
Oh, thank you. I am a former queen, aren't I? Thank you so much. Thank you. Anna, AKA, mind you, I just want to make sure that people don't forget that. I haven't said that in a long time, like Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. But anyway, I'm coming to you live in Louisville, Kentucky. Just finished up with the executive committee meeting of the Louisville-Jefferson County Democratic Party. There's a lot of wonderful things happening. I'll talk to you about that on a one-off, Aaron. However, my protest sign says today, every congressman needs to be like Morgan McGarvey. Why do I say that? He had a town hall here in Louisville, Kentucky, and over 1,000 people were there. Republicans, Democrats, independents, everybody was at the town hall. And he carried himself with such class that only a great congressman would have from the great state of Kentucky.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. I think the whole, it's a nice segue actually into our news of the week for sure, because I think there's a lot of, folks who are riled up, right? There's so much going on that people are so pissed off about, and people are checked in and they're like pissed off because Yeah, because if you're paying attention, you should be. And it is just turning into, I think, real, tangible outrage. And the fact that, thousands showed up for Morgan McGarvey's town hall, I think really goes to show it. Last night, I was really thrilled to head down to West 6th, which I'm never going to complain about heading down to West 6th. I guess I could complain about this time because, man, there were such long lines. There was like hundreds and hundreds of people. The Fayette County Democratic Party, I think inspired by Morgan to some degree, did a rally. Like, what can people do? They have these great, learn, fight, win handouts, things people could do to get plugged in and make a difference. But the turnout was phenomenal. And we didn't have a member of Congress. I mean, we had some state reps there, and that was great. But, it was like not a direct line to how you stop Trump. Like, we had to kind of connect some dots. But people were just fired up, pissed off. So many people I had never seen before showing up. I was just really, really impressed. So I think there is like lots and lots of energy and enthusiasm. I don't know. Are you guys feeling it? Are you feeling fired up and ready to fight back? Anyone?
Sort of, kind of.
Sort of, kind of. Not quite there yet.
Well, I've been having some blood pressure issues, as you well know, Aaron. And I've been trying to stay away from, it's a little bit too much on the brain. It started off with affecting, I was crying. I was just a slobbering mess when one of the first things was messing around with the EEOC, which we know it will all be demolished. But now it's hitting so many people. And Morgan McGarvey, our great U.S. congressman here in District 3, I'm sorry you all don't have one like him. I apologize. But anyway, he did a call last night as well, and they called me. And I wasn't so special. They called thousands of other people too. And you had an opportunity. Yeah, but he didn't call you all. So, so anyway, you could do the *3 and ask him questions. And at various times you could tell it was almost like Morgan was going to cry because it was so many of our seniors on the phone, worried about their Social Security, worried about everything, worried about their grandkids, worried about education, just a bunch of worries. I've never seen people this worried. And I am, of a certain age, I've been around for a hot minute, and I've never seen it. I've never seen it in my life. So I'm kind of staying away just a little bit, but you can't help but hear all the news, and you can't help but hear things in Frankfort as well. So there are people in Washington that really care about us, and that does filter down to our state level as well as our local levels.
Yeah, I agree. I guess I'm been like you, Ms. Kim. I have limited my time on social media. I have done a lot of things just because it's a lot, and when you've been in the trenches for a while, you're just tired, tired. And so I have had to disengage a little bit, but you cannot not hear about it because it's affecting every pocket, right? Of just regular Americans. But I will say something that I did find that I have found a little hope in is that I think people are starting to yearn for community again. And I think that the large turnout with Morgan's thing, the large turnout with the Fayette Dems, I think it's starting to maybe, hopefully, bring us back to a place where we recognize that really the community, it's community. At the most basic local level, we need each other to move forward. We've got to do this. And I hope that is what's happening, is that we're seeing a movement back towards community and not so much of isolating ourselves, putting ourselves in silos and wallowing in despair. Like, that's what I hope's happening.
Strength in numbers, right? Strength in numbers. We got to stick together. But when you miss a day of the Trump stories, he's done like 10 things.
Yeah.
And then you're all confused and everything, And another thing I cried about, Aaron, I mean, I was really blubbering. I don't know. I've never cried this much in my life. I'm a military brat. I'm a Navy brat. We didn't cry too much. Um, Joy Reid on MSNBC. Like, what happened?
Yeah, no, that was a surprise for sure. I think a lot of the co-hosts kind of came to her defense and said it was a bad idea that MSNBC, dropped her, and then she left the network as opposed to getting reassigned for something else. But yeah, it seemed very. I don't know where it came from. I don't, those
Trump.
decisions. I don't have any insights into those decisions, but it just
I
seemed
do.
okay. let's. What happened, Kim?
We might be on the chopping block in the next couple of months because he is going after anyone that is calling him to the carpet, as my grandfolks used to say, call you to the carpet. He is getting rid of these people. He is humiliating these people. And you see, most definitely, out of all of the anchors on all of the news stations, I would say that Joy Reid was the top person that was on Trump's, AZZ, right? And he's got a lot of power now, so he can even go to the more liberal stations as well. They better not mess with Rachel Maddow. I think we would have a mass. We would all go to New York and protest on that one.
I agree, and I'll tell you one of the things that has been very disheartening has been watching people in positions of power or control of things or the money go down faster than a French prize fighter, as my dad would say. It has been a very depressing, just not even a slow dive, but a nosedive right into the most pathetic ass kissing, I said ass, that I have ever seen. And, everybody should take note. Everybody, because I'm going to tell you, y'all, the only people that are saving us are us. Because all these people that we have put in or have said, oh, they'll help us, they ain't going to do nothing. They're going to fold. They already have. And what I have seen is I have seen women and Black women in particular stand in the gap. When are we going to stand with them? There was a woman in Idaho that got hauled off by private security, y'all, in zip ties for being unruly in a meeting. And you know that nobody stood up and was like, get your hands off this. Nobody. People laughed and videoed it. That's what they did. We have to do better.
Girl, you better preach it tonight. See, that's why Aaron doesn't like both of us to be together, because it just could be the Nema and Kim show.
Yeah, I get nervous.
I'm appalled. I'm just saying. I am appalled.
Yeah. No, it's outrageous. I think, and if there was pressure, I hope it comes out in terms of, why Joy was removed. I think the fact that the Washington Post has just announced, their editorial slant is all about the free markets, and just seemed like, what is this? Not that it's shocking that billionaire's gonna billionaire, right? But these greedy MFs do not have our best interest at heart. They don't care. They're just these rapacious, greedy billionaire. You don't become a billionaire by accident. You have to make probably millions of decisions where you're putting yourself and your economic self-interests first. You know who's not a billionaire? Dolly Parton is not a billionaire. And Jeff Bezos is, and that should be a stain on his soul, and I think it absolutely is. And then obviously Elon Musk and our fake billionaire Donald Trump. These people are just horrible humans. And then all the other billionaires that are on this cabinet, where do they find so many billionaires and multimillionaires to put in charge of everything? They really got the public, the people's interest at heart. Totally. Give me a break.
Can I say one thing, Aaron, so we can move on? And I'm going to say this every week that I'm on here, so please bear with me. I did this years ago when I was really active on Twitter, well, formerly known as Twitter or whatever. You all know what I'm talking about. There was a young lady, she was a journalist, and she came from a authoritarian type of government, and they had more of a democracy at first. And she told everybody, and she was screaming it every day on Twitter, make sure you write down what you know your country to be right now. Write down all of the freedoms that you have, all of the comforts that you have. And I did that. I literally did that. And when I look back in that notebook now, so many of these things were taken away. And as we progress on, and I go back and I look at 2016, it's even more. And what she was saying is that when you find that your list only has about 5 to 10 things left on it, you are definitely in an authoritarian government. And it happens so quickly that you don't even have a chance to almost stop it unless you did in the beginning. So we're moving into that. And I think that we all know that, and we need to write that down. I mean, really serious. Our listeners and our viewers, please, I beg of you, write down in a little notebook all of the freedoms, all of the comforts that you have by living in America. And then go back and look at it periodically through this Elon Musk regime.
Yeah, I think it is. We might very well be the frog in the pot of boiling water, right? You do need to take those kind of creeping baselines and keep an eye on what's going on around you, because it is slowly and surely, if these folks have their way, it is going to be eroded. All right, so really quickly, I know there's lots of opportunities for action. I want to call out a couple of them. I know Nema's got one that she wants to talk about, but on March 4th, the 5051 movement, which is kind of a very disassociated crew of folks who are looking to kind of take our country back. They're March 4th for democracy. That is going to be a bit of a march in Frankfort at the Kentucky State Capitol, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. This is I think their third event in Frankfort. They're mostly Louisville organizers, but definitely they're kind of looking to build that community, get people together, speak loudly about what's happening at the federal level. And if you all want to come out, I think it's going to be a good turnout. There'll be a lot of folks there. March 4th, 11 to 1 p.m. at the Frankfort Capitol. And Nema, what do you got going on that day?
So fresh out of our organizing committee meeting, we are doing a day of action as well, as National AFT has reached out to all of the local chapters and affiliates across the country. And all of us are doing something that day. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be hanging out at 701 East Main Street on the sidewalk there for the UK basketball traffic to come through between 3:30 and probably about 6. People can come, leave, get a sign, hold it up for a few minutes and go. Something that you can do that will feel like that you're actually doing something. We'll have some information on how you can also reach out to your congressional members, your state leaders, and those things. Our message is very clear. We need to protect our kids from what is happening in the federal government with the cuts to DEI, the cuts to all of these things, not just one thing in particular, but hey, we have got to rally together. We've got to protect our students. We've got to protect our kids and our most vulnerable families. And that is what we are going to be marching for.
Nice. I know there's a couple opportunities in Lexington. I know the Peaceful Bluegrass Resistance, they're doing something, I think, at the same time, 11 to 1, but they'll be down at the Courthouse Square. So lots of opportunities to show up, show a sign, show that you do not like the direction that things are headed in. But if you want to get the most traffic, I think Nema's event has got a lot of.
Come on, just come on, bring a sign, wear blue, come on out. We'll hold up some signs and maybe make ourselves feel a little bit better, and also bring awareness to the folks in our communities that just aren't affected by some of these cuts yet. Let's be very clear, yet.
You might not be, in a dual income situation with a federal employee who's losing their job or threatened to lose their job. But, and you might not be a farmer who's, left holding a bunch of receipts for projects that they undertook with a contract with the federal government to support them, maybe with some USAID contracts, some food you were growing for USAID that no longer even exists. But, the impacts are accruing. Obviously, the budget the budget that was passed late last night, that budget is going to have real impacts on a lot of humans, right? So this was truly a problematic budget resolution, which like starts the process of them setting spending limits, and it's starts the process of that ultimate tax reconciliation package that they're going to pass by party line. But what we saw was unanticipated resistance. Was it resistance? Probably not. But Thomas Massie was the lone Republican to vote against the package. Was it because he didn't want to see the massive cuts to Medicaid? Was it because he wanted to defend all the great IRA programs that are helping our country deal with climate change and build a new clean economy? Was it any of that? No, it was not that. It was solely because it didn't cut enough from the budget. So he, of course, is like the ultimate budget hawk and deficit hawk, and couldn't vote for something that was going to increase the deficit by hundreds of billions of dollars every year, which of course, if Trump gets his tax cuts for the rich and the big corporations, it adds trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars to the debt unless they have trillions and trillions of dollars of cuts. So that's why Medicaid is absolutely in the target. And that's not why Massie voted against it. He voted against it because it didn't cut enough. So not that I'm shocked. But
right?
he got a lot of attention.
Well, he's got a beard that he's working on.
Oh, does he?
And I noticed that, and I was like, weird. He still looks exactly the same. I won't go there.
Weird. He's a weird looking human.
He has a beard now. Yes.
All right. Now he's a weird human with a beard. All right. So, hey, we're going to move on. We do want to check in on what's going on in Frankfort. Really important for us to get an update. Really thrilled that I ran into Adrielle Camuel, Representative Camuel, last night at the big event in Lexington. And she had her calendar and said, yes, I suppose I could come on your show tomorrow for a minute to give you an update. So Adrielle, thank you so much for joining. Representative Camuel, thank you so much for joining us. How are things? How's the hootenanny in Frankfort treating you?
Well, let's see. My goal was to make it to the racetrack on the outskirts of Frankfort before coming on the show, because it's a hootenanny. I appreciate you saying that. Also, hey, Nema, I love coming on the show and seeing my union rep.
Hey, sis, how are you? I'm so proud. Yeah. Yes.
But we passed, I think we passed 26 bills today in the House. Shockingly, there were 26 on the docket, and they all went.
How many did you vote for?
Believe it or not, I voted for the vast majority because most of them were not horrific. Actually, some of them did some good. Some of them were really and truly some good bills.
Nice.
Representative Dietz had a good bill about amending marriage licenses or marriage certificates. Like there really were some common sense things. But the tough ones today, they passed out of the House. One of the priority bills, HB2, so that we would no longer tax gold and silver bullion, because we got to tax diapers and formula, right, and period products, but not gold and silver bullion. How dare you think that would be acceptable?
It's all about priorities.
I was a no on that one.
Okay.
We also passed out of the House today House Bill 398, which basically gutted all of Kentucky's OSHA and brought us to the federal standards. But that bill actually removes six regs that protected Kentucky workers that do not apply to under federal OSHA. So all of our public servants who are the first responders who run into danger, all of our teachers will no longer be covered, will no longer have those safety requirements in place should this bill pass out of the Senate. So the House passed it. We worked very, very hard. I will tell you, the Dems on the floor were incredible. And our minority, the caucus chair, the Democratic caucus chair, Al Gentry, told his story about how he lost his arm on the job because standards for the equipment that were being used were not met. and that was 32 years ago. So it was that was a tough day. And we also voted out of the House because science be damned, and data and 50 some years, 75 years of practice. There was a vote to leave it up to local water districts and with House Bill 16 to determine whether or not they want to continue fluoridating water.
Yeah, that
So
one just seems so very weird. It's like, what in the world? But you know, when you put Bobby Kennedy Jr. in charge of, you know, your
right?
health, federal health leadership, like I guess you'll get stuff like that. It's clearly it's happening all across the country. This anti-fluoride thing, it's
based on junk science. It's junk.
Yeah,
like it's not real.
Yeah, it's like the anti-vax stuff, you know, just really not paying attention to public health science at all.
Listen, I never got polio. And here's the thing.
Who even needs that? Who even needs that polio vaccine?
My oldest sister is 17 months older than me. She got the polio vaccine. My birth year, we had herd immunity. I didn't get it. Guess what? The vaccines worked.
Yeah, no, for
Never
sure.
had whooping cough.
Well, you know, we got the first measles death in the United States in a decade in West Texas, because that's just more and more people are questioning experts. They're questioning the scientific process, and their YouTube research is just as good as your PhD, right?
Well, and your MD and your chemistry background and your data and all the years you spent learning, studying, training, doing all the things, running tests.
And you know, it's the communities that have the crappiest health care and dental care that are going to be the ones that jump on this opportunity to, you know, do their own research on fluoride.
The water. Well, and here's the thing, and there were a couple of us that pointed it out, and I'll tell you, I pointed this out in committee too. If you don't want fluoride on your water, you can actually buy a very inexpensive reverse osmosis water pitcher. There are also options that are like like larger quantities, put it on the counter, or also whole house systems that you can do that are relatively inexpensive. But for those who are on a really limited budget, for less than $60, you can get one that will remove 92% of fluoride from your water. But we didn't even talk about the other things that are in water, and in our water. And I'll just say this, like, I was watching a report the other day. In my middle years, I have consumed so much microplastics. I have the equivalent. We all do. Well, I think those of us on this right now on this on screen, we've all consumed enough microplastics that we have the equivalent of a plastic disposable spoon, like floating through our body. Like, that's how much microplastics we have in us. We're full of flame retardant because that's what they used to make those awful feeling pajamas out of when we were little. We've all got sunscreen running through us. But I make sourdough. Like, so I've got, 4 different sourdough starters in my fridge, and I feed them and take care of them. But you know what I don't give them? Tap water. You know why? The bleach kills the yeast.
Oh.
So I use filtered water.
Does the sourdough take out the plastics in your body? Is that how that works?
No, it does not. No. But it is good for gut health.
Gut health. Good to have the gut health. Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, it's red meat that is still being thrown at people, and it is really heartbreaking because honestly, the people who this type of bill, like, this should be a state decision. Either the state does it or we don't. We have 75 years of proof of how good this has been for the state of Kentucky. And we were groundbreakers and leaders on it. And we know that I didn't mean to get off on this tangent, but here I am. For every dollar of preventative measures that we take, including water fluoridation, it saves taxpayers $38. So it's a really good return on investment. And it's regulated and all the things. And actually, I just lost my train of thought on that. Oh, the people it hurts the most. Sorry. It's children. It's the elderly. It's people in communities that already have limited or no access to dental care. Like, what do we do? Like, I believe in Frankfort, we should be doing things that passing bills, looking out for the residents of this state. We are in the business of taking care of people, providing services and protections. Today was not a day that we did that well. This has not been a great session for the most part. But as far as good bills, there have been some good ones that have passed, but the priority bills, they're just, the majority party's priorities are not my priorities.
Yeah. Well, I am so glad you're back there fighting for us. I think it's safe to say we all share your vision of a government that actually helps folks.
Works for you all, works for people, works to make it better.
Yeah.
And I'm, I was listening when I was when I was backstage listening to what you all were talking about. And I am so worried. I'm so concerned about what these federal tax cuts will mean, about what this budget resolution is going to do to Medicaid. And you may have covered it before I was able to hear. I worry about the impact that this is going to have on our free and reduced lunch school populations, like the CEP schools. In some instances, and it sounds like hyperbole, but it is not. The only meals some kids are getting are the 2 meals they are getting at school and the food that goes into their backpacks. What are we going to do when we remove that safety net of feeding children?
Well, and that's a really good, one of the things, and Adrielle, I could listen to you talk about Frankfort all day long, and twice on Sunday.
Yeah.
But and you're exactly right. And one of the things that we're really trying to focus on in Fayette County right now is to protect locally and branch out. Like we're saying to people, protect your local community right now. And what that looks like is that means going to your school board meetings and saying, what is the plan to feed these kids? Right? Because the money that you're relying on is coming from federal funds that might not be there tomorrow. That is one of the things. We think every kid deserves a free and reduced lunch, period. Right? Period. And so one of the things you can do right now is to start sheltering our kids in our communities and branch out from there, because we've got to talk to our councils about making sure immigration, that our schools remain safe and our hospitals for kids to feel like they can come in and learn. These are things that we can do right now locally that can help ease some of these fears that's going on in our communities right now. And we've got to do it. So I completely agree, Adrielle. I am so concerned about IDEA, which for you all who do not know, that is special ed programs and services. We are scared that our para-educators who are funded sometimes through federal programs, we are afraid they are going to get cut. They are already an essential part of our schools and underpaid, and they are terrified of what could come. So one of the things that we can do is we can look at our school districts and say, what can we do as a community? How can we put a blanket of protection for the next several years over our community? And then we can roll up our sleeves and move to the next community and say, what have you guys done? How can we help? Let's support each other. That's what we need to be doing.
Absolutely. And I hope that, I feel very fortunate in my life that my kids are healthy and they, we have not experienced traumatic or chronic illness. I took a call today from a constituent who is, she's the primary guardian for a grandchild. And I'm sorry, my husband's texting me to make sure I'm okay. And she has custody because her grandchild has cystic fibrosis. She is doing very, very well. Her grandchild is, because of the incredibly expensive medication that is keeping the mutations, the mutating cells at bay. And she called in a panic because her grandchild receives Medicaid. What happens? This is a young child, and so, and a grandparent who is terrified. And so you're exactly right, Nema. It's the IDEA. It is the folks who are food insecure. It's the elimination on April 1st. They're going to eliminate Medicare, like telehealth visits for Medicare recipients. The attack on people is mind-numbing, and it's, happening in the grossest way at the federal level. And I have concerns about states like ours where we are, the Republican majority just wants to mimic what's happening at the federal level, and it is terrifying.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well,
and
I know that we got to let you go.
Than I should have.
I know we got to let you go because your husband, you promised him, and I promised you that we would not keep you that long. And we have another amazing guest we want to talk to. So,
yes, sorry, I
thank
didn't
you
mean
for
to
the
take
work.
Up so much time.
No. Thank you for the work you're doing in Frankfort. Keep it up. I think the takeaway here is the cavalry is not coming, right? Like, so we better saddle up. Whatever we can do it, wherever we can do it, and work together to make it happen.
I'm just going to throw this out there too. What I will encourage everybody who is listening, email.
We lost you, but we don't have your audio right now. So email
and let them know that what you want from them, what your expectation is, because they report to you.
Yeah.
So reach out, keep the
call
pressure
them,
on them,
email them, hold them
difference.
accountable for sure. Awesome. Thank you so much, Representative Camuel. Enjoy the rest of your session. And
I can't hear anymore. Sorry.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. So we are thrilled, of course, always thrilled to hear from our representatives in Frankfort. But now we're absolutely thrilled to have some local leadership and really glad to have with us Councilwoman Shameka Parrish-Wright, who is at the Louisville Metro Council, and also amazing longtime civil rights activist and organizer, and is the executive director of Vocal Kentucky. It's a newly launched organization dedicated to ending AIDS, the failed drug war, mass incarceration, and homelessness by building the political power of people directly impacted by those issues, which includes herself. She was driven to seek the office because she passionately believes people like herself who've experienced poverty and homelessness need representation the most. Amen. And thank you so much for joining us. Hello. How are you?
Hi, good evening. Great. I hope you can hear me. And I'm excited to be here. And I want to thank Kimberly Cecil Jones for staying on me. I literally just left the emergency room with one of my sons, but it worked out. He has strep throat. He's okay. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Strep throat sucks.
Dedication.
Every parent is like, oh God, oh no, they had it. Oh, because you always go to the doctor like, I really hope it's not strep.
Yeah.
Well, my heart goes out to you and to him. But yeah, so really glad to have you on with us. I saw you nodding in the green room when we were talking about the importance of local engagement, the importance of these programs, and how important the federal government has played, the role it's played to support our local communities. Tell us, how are things in Louisville, in your neighborhoods that you represent? What are you most concerned about with this kind of current craziness that's coming our way?
Well, thank you, Aaron, and amazing Nema. I watch you, and I'm connected to you, sister, in so many ways. It's a dumpster fire, right? Louisville's under attack, right? We don't have to sugarcoat that. But just like any time, the people will arise to the moment, and we have a lot of people who are interested in politics. Dr. Ricky Jones, in one of his classes I had at U of L, said politics are who gets what, when, where, how. And we're seeing that, right? We know that elections have their consequences. We're definitely seeing that. But I think now more than ever, and listening to Representative Adrielle Camuel everything she said was on point. I think more than ever, local politics are something we can do something about. that is a tangible thing that we can reach out and touch. And that is the uniqueness of Kentucky, is that you can go from, I go to DC, Texas, New York, I go all over the nation doing good work. And then I can go from being there to being in a space with our governor, to being with you, Nema, and with the unions. We are very accessible on a local politics stage, but we got to make sure that we're exercising our rights to motivate those who are elected to stand strong when they're in Frankfort and they're watching Louisville be attacked. There is a I said this when I ran for mayor in 22, that Louisville needed a protector, because there is a grab for Louisville, right? Not just in our education system, as I just heard you, not just with Medicaid, not just with the mayorship, but folks want that governorship. They want a trifecta, and Louisville is a gateway to that. And so if we don't protect Louisville, we're going to see more and more of these terrible policies taking place. But my faith, what makes me wake up every day to do this work, is I believe in the people. I believe if we do the work and we organize, we can get the people powered up to make sure that they're standing together. That's our faith community. That's our directly impacted community. That's our electeds. Everyone standing together. We will be the force to stop the dumpster fire.
That's fantastic and super inspiring and informative. And Kimberly has done, I think, a good job of ensuring that Louisville does not drop away from our focus, because a lot of us are in the bluegrass, and we talked a lot about Frankfort. But you're right. Like, it is the biggest, bluest dot. It is one of the most important areas to just keep our commonwealth, I don't know, and going from completely giving up and giving way to this massive red wave, I suppose. Kimberly, any thoughts you want to share, or questions you have for Councilwoman Parrish-Wright?
Of course I do. I've been chomping at the bit. I want Shameka to tell us a little bit about her story. I know we don't have a lot of time. Okay. And I also want to make mention also, because she has a very, very inspiring story that people around this Commonwealth need to hear more of, because it gives you encouragement. It gives you the motivation, like she said, to get up every day. We're women of faith. That is true. But it's also about hearing people, what they have overcome. But I also would like to make note to all of our listeners and viewers tonight that Shameka came in second in the mayoral race, which was, if we're talking about basketball, right? It was an upset. They didn't see it coming. It was an upset, which allows me and the people here in Jefferson County to know that we want more community. We want more organizing. We want people that are not afraid to speak up. And Shameka is that type of person. She's never scared, okay? Well, if she is, I've never seen it, but she will speak up for those that feel like they don't have a voice, you see. And also, I want to make mention of this also. When the Breonna Taylor and the George Floyd what I want to call civil rights movement happened in 2020, 2021. We had something in Louisville right across the street from City Hall in the mayor's office called Injustice Square. This woman was out there 24 hours a day, helping the homeless, feeding the homeless, giving clothing to the homeless, lending support and wisdom and prayers to those that were really scared of the situations that were going down in Louisville. Heck, we were international. Everybody from Sweden to Germany to Hawaii knew what was going on right here in Louisville, Kentucky. But this woman's story is so inspiring. I really want people to hear that. I'm going to shut up now.
I'll try to be really quick, because I know these things go. You're asking me to wrap up 48 years of experiences in a matter of minutes, but I am so honored, Kimberly, for you staying in touch and you reaching out. Even when I went through my issues with the Democratic Party, Kimberly was she was such an advocate on telling me, hey, this is how we got to show up. I love my party. I always say it's hard sometimes, because I'm left. People see me as left of the left. But I took one of those tests through Councilman Ja'Cory Arthur, former councilman, had a test where he was having these community conversations. So he had everybody do this like political scale on where you are. And some people that work with me were like left of me. I felt more like I was definitely not right, but I was not as left as people make me out to be. So I do have some practical things that I think that a government should do. I believe in our taxes. I believe we need to have more conversations about taxes. I believe in public transportation, public education as a great equalizer, because all of those social services and programs, you all, is what me and my family used to survive and to build stability. I am the example of the McKinney Bento funds. I am an example of shelters and stair steps of getting support, and what happens when you build that stability, when people have the best choice to make for themselves and they're able to make it not out of survival, but in a way to thrive. So I'm in a thriving mode in my life, and I feel blessed, but it's my turn. It's my turn because I've been there and done that and got the t-shirt. And it's my turn because I actually think Kentucky is more purple than it is red. I think that we haven't done the best job at talking to people all over the counties. When I worked for Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, I was attracted to that because it was right at the end of mountaintop removal back in 2008. And they were doing these flyovers where they would bring people from the mountain haulers to Louisville and vice versa, take people from Louisville to there. And I will volunteer at their events. And I was like, listen to the stories, listen to the points of connections that we have, and listen how our stories are united around wanting the things the best for your family, wanting education, wanting to make sure that people make it out of the situations that you're in. And we all want some of the same things. And we all were sold the American dream, which we now know that you have to have a certain amount of privilege to achieve, right? And so if we don't elect people who listen to the right people, then we won't get there. So I had no dream to become a councilwoman or even to become mayor. I actually am a transplant to Kentucky, but I found out that I have a rich family history. And going back through ancestry.com, I have a great deal of history in Winchester and Richmond, Kentucky, where my Parrish family comes from. So if it's two R's in Parrish and you meet them in Kentucky, more than likely there's some relationship with me. My married name is Wright, but when I moved here in 2002, I was unmarried. I had a baby. I was pregnant with my fourth daughter, had 3 kids in tow. And I thought I would come to Louisville, finish my education, and start a nonprofit. I made a big decision to leave a nonprofit, and that really hurt me financially. And then I found myself homeless. I put myself and my kids up with our savings into a hotel here in Louisville. And then after about almost 2 months, that hotel went up on the rates. And when they went up on the rates, I said, oh no, I won't have any money. And so I packed our things in our car, and we slept in our car until Wayside Christian Mission had room for us. While I was at Wayside Christian Mission, I moved there in August 8th is when I came to Louisville of 2002. By September the 27th, I was signing my first lease for my first apartment. And they were like, you're pregnant. I wasn't due until November. And they said, how are you doing all this? I also helped over 30 other women move out of that shelter. Some of those women had been living there for years and months, because back then the shelters had a lot more support. And so people would stay in the homeless shelters a lot longer. And even while a homeless person, I advocated and lobbied the local Metro Council, because HUD was cutting funds and we needed an affordable housing trust fund. So even as a homeless person, I fought for that. I knew that organizing was something that I love to do. You all, I didn't think politics was going to be my thing. I learned through people like Ann Braden, amazing people across Kentucky, that politics were a tool for change, and that I wanted to be a part of change when it was my turn. And I just happened to be in the right place and the right time to fast forward to 2020, that I worked for the Bell Project, and they started that project. And you can't give me nothing, because I'm not going to just sit there and twiddle my thumbs. They started that project. They said, oh, this will be a little $250,000 project. We just want you to bail people out. And I took that work. I said, oh, I remember being incarcerated, held on a bail at 18 years old, $10,000, even at 10%, at $1,000. I was unable to get out. I sat in jail over 38 days. I had a baby. I got out. I went to college, and no looking back. But if you run my fingerprints now, those charges come up, because I never got them expunged, because they were a part of my story. And they remind me of how many more people who are sitting in jail because of poverty and making poor decisions and crimes of poverty. And I knew I didn't want that. defending myself in a domestic violence situation could have got me 8 to 15 years in prison. And so when I started that work, they said, Shameka, just in Jefferson County, they gave me a card, some rules, and we started bailing people out. When I left the bail project in 2022, we bailed people, over 4,000 people out in 29 counties, including 2 in Southern Indiana. That just tells you a little inkling of who I am. I think that when it's my turn and I can be a resource, I want to do that. So the work I try to do now is to make sure that anybody that's in decision-making positions is doing their part. We have a lot of people that have discretions. We got a lot of things we can do before Frankfort even deals with it. We got people like judges and police officers and people who are in positions who can make lives better, who can do the right thing without changing the law. But we have to do it all. We have to change the laws to make sure that they work for us as needed. And nobody's asking anybody to be unethical, but to use every tool that you have. And that's who I am, and that's who I've had to be. So when I came into this work, I was like, oh, I want to help more judges get elected so that we don't just have judges with a prosecutorial background. We have judges who come from all walks of life. So when they're making life decisions, when they're sitting in those seats 4 and 8 years, making decisions that impact communities, that they have the right lens to say, okay, what's the best decision I can make? Because this decision is going to impact that generation and the generations behind it. So you're looking at somebody who just cared, somebody who wants to be what she didn't have, and somebody who's using the tools she has, coming from a lot of adverse childhood experiences, from my father being locked up 40 of his 56 years on this earth. I have stories that connect to the hollers, to the hoods, to the suburban, to the urban communities. And I try to take that work across the state with my Jobs with Justice work that I used to do here when we had Jobs with Justice, with my Kentuckians for the Commonwealth work, through voter engagement, through development. I not only use that to engage people, I use it to raise grassroots fundraising. And the last point I make is the government, and I've learned that as an elected official, this is my 2nd year, will never pay for everything. And we do need to put pressure on our federal responses, our federal folks who can do something about it. But locally, through mutual aid, through us electing the right people, we can make a lot of decisions, tax referendums. We can do things locally that can help and improve and save lives. And that's what I'm about with my vocal work. And that's what I'm about as an elected councilwoman.
Woo! That's a story. That is a lot of knowledge that was just dropped. Thank you for just enriching us with your perspective. So what are you focused on right now in Louisville? What's the council wrestling with? What are the things we should be watching for? And you said like Louisville is like under threat at all times by the Republican forces around us. What are you guys dealing with?
Aaron, we are looking at the political will to push back against the resistance that's coming, right? They're working their strategy. When I travel and people say, how are you all dealing with Project 2025? I said, if you're in Kentucky, you've been living Project 2025. There's been a constant attack. So that doesn't scare me. The red wave doesn't scare me if we put the right people there. I don't know what it is if they wake everybody up from Jamal to Jim Bob and say, get on this bus and go get to those polls, they do a better job with turnout. And my job is to say, hey, we need better turnout, and people will turn out if they have someone that they feel is worth turning out for, if they feel like that vote does matter. And you all remember, I think it was, I don't know if it was Representative Brown, but there was a representative in recent years that won by 1 vote. You remember they recounted and that 1 vote. So I know that 1 vote matters. I've seen it, and it's so showing the people. But in Louisville, the political will, the next mayor's race, because we're still a mayor strong city. And then now that we went nonpartisan like the other counties, that doesn't scare me as much, but I saw the buildup. We have a mayor that says that they're Democrat, but they work like Republicans, and they work with the Republicans to put forth legislation like House Bill 5, to put House Bill 388 that made us nonpartisan. And so what we got to stop lifting up people with hidden agendas, and that the agendas that don't improve and save lives. And so I'm pushing with my council. I just had a press conference about our just showing them that we're still strong. The Democratic Party is still my party, and you can't get rid of me. You try, but you can't get rid of me, because I know that we believe in it. But really, it's not about the party lines when it's about making the best decision for the greater good. So using that, the social services, the programs. So we've seen an increase in our budget, of course, for policing, but we see a gutting of programs and services. And so that balance in decision making is what I'm chasing after, because that balance in decision making gets down to the ground. And then that's where you see the gun violence that we're trying to deal with. And so we have people who are more concerned with crushing cars and things like that and taking assets than they are with making the decisions that will help people show up, be ready for school, be ready to get the health care that they need. And so the need is so great. The harm reduction that is happening has been phenomenal, but we're rolling back on a lot of the good things that we've done. So I think that elections have their consequences, and it's our job as the people to make sure we're holding them accountable. But I will say, Aaron and Nema, we are seeing an emergence of people who are showing up to boards and committees, who are showing up to council meetings. One of you mentioned that being at those local council meetings are so important. Joining those committees, listening and pushing back. I just met with Clout, and they invited me to their Nehemiah conference. Faith community is involved in this, environmentalists. We have so much that we're dealing with in Kentucky, because Kentucky is worth fighting for. And I truly believe that. And Louisville can be a catalyst like it's supposed to be to show how it works when you listen to the people. But we have great examples all over Kentucky where they're doing the work that it takes. I think Louisville now should be listening to other parts of Kentucky and sealing in the things that work. So that's what I'm trying to do while it's my turn. It's my second year. It is no joke. Being on that council is like the worst game of high school. Sometimes there's cliques, there's all these other agendas. So I'm just being forthcoming. I'm practicing what I preach, and I'm showing it in every way. And so I'm listening to my constituents. My constituents are coming to me. They care about the cats that are on our street, to the trash being taken out. So shoring up the things that we should count on, and then also getting the focus on advocacy and why it's important to put advocacy and services together. So I think that's what we're seeing. We got some good projects. I'm meeting my colleagues where they are. I'm learning about what's important to them, and I'm signing on legislation. I feel like since I've been on, I've been voting like a centralist, a generalist on council because of the legislation that's coming forth. So I just re-announced that I'm refiled the People's Consent Decree to help make sure that we shore up the consent decree that we know that is coming. But also I'm working on things so our parks can be improved and all of those things that matter to the people, jobs, and so our seniors can stay in place. Reverend Tim Finley said that there's a silver tsunami coming. It's already here. And so I want to make sure that the boomers and my mom and everybody after them have what they need. You should be able to age in place. Their houses are not being taken through taxes. So we're looking at ways to improve so people can age in place, and then also making sure that our young people can survive and thrive and see this as a reasonable place. I have 2 teams of employees that work for me, and I'm the only one that owns a home. And I was homeless in 2014. We just bought our home in 2018. I want to see more pathways to home ownerships. And then in my district, we have just about as many renters as we have homeowners. So lifting up renters, because I come from that renting community, making sure that there's all kinds of housing, mixed use housing, because single family housing is amazing, but it won't close the over 30,000 housing shortage that we have. So a little bit of everything. And I've been telling people, bring me your framework for legislation and we'll file it. I'm here to be a tool for the people. And that's what we've been doing. The one legislation I did get passed last year, I was a part of a lot, but the one I put forth was through the help of people for the wrongful convictions. And so we did get that legislation passed. It's good to see that Representative Nemes is on the right side of this and trying to make sure that there's actual funding and things like that. So listening to Representative Camuel and wanting to follow up, on vocal side, we just introduced and did a love letter to all our legislators to tell them, hey, you don't know us, you don't see us, but we're living, we're trying to be here, and you should be able to have a quality of life no matter your zip code or your station in life in Kentucky.
Amazing. So Shameka Parrish-Wright, just doing a little bit of work there.
Just a little. I have to say this really quickly. I don't think I've ever met you like face to face, but I have fangirled you for a while now. So I have. And so I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for your voice and thank you for your courage, because I have seen you stand and hold in the gap, right? I have seen you do that. And I just wanted to say thank you. You inspire me. You inspire a whole lot of other people to just keep swinging and just keep going. So I want to say thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Don't be making me my cheeks are turning red. You can't see them. Have you had Representative McGarvey on here too? You've had Congressman McGarvey. He's been calling and trying to put out the call for the Democrats to stand up and stand strong.
Yeah, we have
Good.
not had him on since he was a senator, so we should try to get him back.
Okay.
Kimberly keeps making promises, but yeah, we would love to have Congressman McGarvey join us. And we're so very pleased that you were able to take time and join us. What's that, Kim? You have things you want to say?
One more thing.
One more thing.
Shameka, what's your next career move? Are you going to run for mayor next time? I believe you can get it.
People ask me that all the time. What I'm worried is that if I could, because it's going to be a rat race again, but if I go through and I somehow make it through primary this time, will people line up with the Republican or somebody like me? Will I look left of the left of the left of the left that it's impossible to win out in the county? So what I learned through my numbers, and I got people want to start an exploratory committee to look at me running, and I told them that they could, but I told my district that I haven't made a decision because I really haven't. But what we got to look at is Kamala's numbers out in the county, compare them to my numbers in 2022. And yeah, I barely raised 100,000, but I raised a lot of people power. So we know that I could raise the people power. And somebody said it looked like I put a fist through Jefferson County, but my family lived from the votes that I got, but my family lives out in J-Town. I'm gonna tell you, whoever we get that is going to be progressive has to win out in the county lines, because they felt left out from merger. They feel robbed. They feel like the city doesn't care about them, and the focus has just been on downtown and the West End. So whoever it does, I've said that if I do it, I'm going to be like Tom Owen was, spending the night out in the county, going to different neighborhoods. And because you really got to put that time. I didn't have enough money to reach out to the county. And then when that incident happened, I clearly couldn't use enough earned media to cover that. So it's something that I'm thinking about, but it's a lot of work, and people can't support me privately. Lines would have to be drawn. So if folks showed that the people told me, and there was a strong enough will to do that, because the only thing is, you all, I will be giving up a strong legacy Democrat seat. Republicans rarely run anybody in this district to pursue that, and I could lose both, right? And so I have to think about which one matters, but I'm open to talk to people about it and see what's feasible. But I promised my district I would look at all ends before I would make that decision, and I haven't yet. But thank you, because every day somebody asks me, and this is judges and lawyers, this is just not people on the street. These are people who run organizations. These are people who work within the administration who are asking me to run. But you all, it's big, and I gotta look at like countywide races and how Black women do in those races, and especially as a progressive Black woman. And honestly, the Republicans have been more successful in running Black candidates throughout the state. So we just need to figure out what that looks like. But if I had the strength of the party, if I had the strength of people who really want to make this happen, I could be convinced.
Almost made some news here, but no, it sounds like
you almost got the exclusive. So many reporters hit me up and say, if you decide, please call me first.
I was trying to get us the exclusive. I was trying to get it. I tried.
You did.
Give me an A+ for effort.
I was sitting there like, come on.
Yeah. Shameka is, and you are our guest tonight for Black History. We're wrapping up on Black History. You are the epitome of Black history. You. So we want this to go down in the history books. And you are our person tonight.
Look at my shirt. It's Poetic Justice with Tupac on there. So our political path and us getting through this for these next few years and sealing it in, because we can change things in the next by midterms and then the next election. I'm focused on us getting through this and taking care of each other, like the representative said, setting up mutual aid in ways that we can pay for things. How you treat the children and the women of a city, of a country, is indicative of how you view it. And so we need to make sure the least we can do is feed people and make sure they have the health care they need. And that's what I want to be a part of. And thank you, Kimberly. Kimberly can get Congressman McGarvey and anybody else she could get here. She got me here. She called me back. She said, "You done yet? You got the link?" And I will happily come back, you all, at any time. And I can help. If she can't get them, I can help get you some more people. Okay.
All right. Well,
thank you, Shameka. Don't be telling all my little, don't be telling all my
I won't tell all your business.
Don't tell them now. Don't tell them.
Such a joy. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope your son's okay soon. And have a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you for inspiring us.
I appreciate you all. Keep going, okay? Absolutely. Bye, you all.
Absolutely. What what a joy. All right, so we've got a call to action because y'all, we've got to be active, and there's a lot going on in the legislature. The General Assembly is moving. We are watching them. Make sure to make your phone calls. So the legislative comment line is open at 7 a.m. So if you're, and I think they close at 7 p.m. Ish. But call them 1-800-372-7181. There's a handful of bills we're concerned about right now. We heard earlier about HB 398. That was the one that undermines workplace safety standards. It has passed the House. You have to call your senators and tell them to vote no on HB 398. There's SB 60, which would undermine local fairness laws. This bill has cleared committee and actually is moving. So call your legislators, both your Senate and your House members, ask them to vote no on SB 60. We've talked in the last episode, we had Lane Boldman on from the Kentucky Conservation Committee. We talked about SB 89. That's continuing to move. It has passed the Senate. You now need to call your House member. If you call the House Natural Resources and Energy Committee and tell them to not pick up SB 89, we could kill it in the House, but that's a really bad one. And we have one good bill we really want you to call and support. This is the bill that we came up with. Betty Pendergrass, who's on our board, firsthand experience watching caregivers who are not allowed to take advantage of the early absentee voting. So help expand early absentee voting to allow caregivers to vote as well as the people they are caring for. This is Adam Moore, Representative Adam Moore put this together after we asked him to, and it's been assigned the House Elections Committee. Hasn't moved yet, though, so call support HB 405. Caregiver voting, HB 405. Ask the House Elections Committee to pick that up and support HB 405. All right, so that's 1-800-372-7181. If you have not made a call to the legislative comment line, you are missing out. They are the nicest humans. They are just the most polite, and they're going to help you figure it out. Don't be intimidated. They're just super wonderful people, and they're going to help you connect to the right people. So you don't need to know who your representative is. You don't need to know who your senator is. You just need to know your zip code and your name, and they will put it all together for you. All right. Anything else folks want to say before we wrap up? Nema, Kimberly?
I'm good. What a great show. I so much enjoyed Shameka. It was amazing. Kim, thank you for getting her on, because I just, sometimes you need to hear, right? Like what people, that you can do it, right? Like there's no reason that we can't do this. So thank you. It was a great show.
Kim delivered for sure. And Shameka Parrish-Wright was phenomenal. Kimberly, can you close us out? Are you there, Kimberly? Kimberly's like, no, I am not closing you
Kim,
out.
she's not there. Do you want me to close this?
Sure, let's do it.
All right, why not? Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State and organized as a 501c4. We are affiliated with the Indivisible Project and the Commonwealth Alliance for Voter Engagement, and are also proud members of the Forward Kentucky Network. Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. Join us next week. It's going to be the 200th episode, and everybody's going to be joined. I will not be there, but somebody will be there. Aaron, maybe. We'll be joined by Kathy Hobart, Kentucky Director of Moms Demand Action. Production of episode 198 was produced by Aaron. So there you go.
Oh, Aaron did it? Are you serious?
Which is why I was so amazed that it was such a great show.
Are we done?
We're done. Cut it.